Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Cohn. I am a columnist at the Bucks County Beacon. I write a lot about Christian nationalism and the war on our public school system. And I am joined today for a really important interview about the attacks on public schools in Southern California. I'm here with several parents from Southern California school districts. Specifically, I am here with Alex and Jen from the Temecula School District, which is in Riverside County. And I'm also here with Daisy from the Los Angeles County Unified School District. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me today to tell me your experiences.
Thanks.
Thanks
For having us, Jenny. We really appreciate it. It's been a shocking week.
It certainly looks like it's been a shocking week. And Daisy, yes, I was hoping to start with you because this is how it landed on my radar. I had spent most of last week writing an article about homeschooling and sort of the homeschooling movement's involvement in the attacks on public schools. So ironically, that kind of kept me out of the loop on what was happening in my own state of California. I'm in Northern California, but Southern California has been under siege, and it was under siege last week. And Daisy wrote a really fantastic article documenting her experiences and reached out to me, and I read it and I said, oh my gosh. And so I posted about it. And then we talked about maybe we should do an interview because this appears to be a coordinated assault on public schools involving several different school districts in Southern California. And they are going to be coming to Temecula this week, tomorrow. And so we wanted to get this out in advance to try to get ahead of what's about to happen in Temecula. And I think we can really anticipate what's about to happen based on what we've seen in Glendale County School District and also in the Redlands School District. So Daisy, if you could tell me, and Los Angeles, if you could tell me your experiences and what you wrote about in your article and a little bit about your background. I know you're a parent. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. I am a television writer. My show that's currently on is Single Drunk Female on Freeform and Hulu. I've written for Silicon Valley, Goldberg's, 30 Rock, and a bunch of other shows. Hopefully you've seen. And because then there might be a residual in it for me, which is what we're striking for right now.
30 Rock. 30 Rock's fantastic.
Thanks. But basically, my other big thing is I'm a public school parent, and I have run booster clubs for my LAUSD, LA Unified School District school. I am a PTA parent at both of my children's schools. I volunteer. I'm an approved volunteer, and I'm just at the school. So I had heard that an elementary school a few miles up in our district, in our same part of LA, had a hate crime happen, which was someone had burned a pride flag that belonged to an LGBTQ teacher. And there was going to be a protest against a pride event that was happening at this elementary school. That was Saticoy Elementary School. The pride assembly was like, basically for 30 seconds at the assembly, they were going to read from a book called The Big Book of Families. And in that book, they were going to say, kids come from all types of families, moms and dads, grandmas, foster parents, moms and moms. And this is what the group was protesting against. And at first I thought, is it even necessary for people to show up to support the school and the educators and the principal and the LGBTQ teacher? I'm sure this is something that can be worked out with the school itself. Like, I've been in public school for a long time. When the sex ed standards first came out a few years ago for California, we had a group of parents at my public school then who just said, well, that's it. They're going to show hardcore porn to kindergartners. And, and just 60 parents were outraged. And I tried to get to the bottom of it. And what had happened is these mega churches in LA had been telling, working class parents and parents who speak English as a second language and stuff, like, hey, they're coming for you and they're coming for your kids. And these parents are busy. They've got jobs. They don't have time to unpack the disinformation. And so what happened was the school sat down with parents and everybody worked together. And it was basically like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're teaching that people come from all kinds of families. That's all we do until 5th grade. And then you can always opt out. You're a parent, you have rights in California, you can always opt out. But the reason that we do this is because public schools are for all of us. We all pay taxes. We all go to public schools. So therefore, we teach about the different types of communities that are in public schools, and that's fair and appropriate, and that's protected by the FAIR Act in California. It's a civil rights thing. And parents got it, and it was like, you can opt out, you can go to a religious school, or you can stay. And those parents stayed. And I thought, I bet something similar is happening at Saticoy. It's weird that they can't work it out. Do I even need to go to support? But I'd called the LGBTQ center, and the guy sounded scared. Like he sounded terrified. And he said the teacher was in hiding. And he said the community was scared. He said the parents at the elementary school who were LGBTQ were scared. There were teachers who were scared. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a straight white lady, a suburban mom. I'll go put my body in front of them. Why not? And I have an LGBTQ child, and I care very deeply about people showing up for the LGBTQ community. So I showed up, I saw literally 5 different PTA presidents from neighboring schools. I saw, like, coming unofficially, not associated in any way, but just to like be like, we love you, principals and teachers, and like, go educators, and we support all. And when we rolled up, it was the scariest scene I've ever seen. It wasn't like a few parents going, hey, don't teach my kid crazy stuff. It was, there was like maybe a handful of moms, and then behind them were like over 100 really buff dudes shouting groomer, pedophile, leave our kids alone. They spotted us, they got in our faces, and they were like, groomers, pedophiles. Anti-Semitic slurs were hurled. Someone said, get out of here, Jew. They called.
Is there a Jewish, was the principal or some of the teachers Jewish, or were they just assuming because it's a public school that somehow it's controlled by Jews?
It was a journalist who was covering them, who is a cat with news on Twitter, at a cat with news. And I don't know if they know him from other protests or if it's just like journalism in general to them. I don't know, but they knew he was a journalist, and maybe they knew his name. I'm not sure.
So they were yelling at the journalist. Okay.
Yeah. And they were yelling the F word at like the assorted crowd. And then the thing that got me was like, we're standing there and we're just holding our signs, and all of a sudden they have a PA system, and the women are going, this is not a protest against LGBTQ, it is against LAUSD. And then the guys grab the megaphone and they go, I am mad. And I bet you're mad too. I bet you want to go in there. I want to zip tie the principal. I want to tie that principal. And I want to, and then they talked about like, he went through like, like almost left my body at this point. Like, I was like, what? I'm not safe. And then he went through everything he wanted to do to every single person who was standing there, and the teachers and the thing, and no one stopped him, and no one said, hey, he doesn't speak for us. In fact, more people got on and said more violent stuff. And my babysitter, who's an LAUSD alum, had showed up with like a little rainbow flag. She got there, she literally couldn't move towards the protest. Like she froze and just started crying. And I had to find her mom and get her into her car because she was so scared. And I was like, at the end of it, and then it wrapped up, and the LGBTQ Center and the Armenian Gay and Lesbian Society, Gallus, said, you guys, thank you so much. We did it. We had the assembly. It went off as planned. We're all good to go. We should go. And so people left pretty quickly. There were a few stragglers who stayed, like a few kind of characters that stayed, and the crowd broke free from where they were supposed to be standing, that the police had asked them to stand. They pushed past the police, they moved around, they encircled the remaining LGBTQ people, And then they beat the crap out of a homeless guy. So, named Percy. And I have that GoFundMe, I can find it, but
Were there any arrests?
I don't know. I don't think so. Um, I'm not sure. Like I don't want to misrepresent anything because I don't know, Jenny. I'm sorry.
No,
I know
it's
these were
no,
victims.
no, keep going. It's okay. Do you know that by chance the name of the guy that was talking about zip tying people?
I don't. I heard it from behind and it was a shock. So I'm not sure who that was. I know some of the names of the people who were there, and I will pull them up as other people are talking. But my main takeaway, oh, and board members were there. LAUSD board members, God bless them, like showed up and said, we support our schools and we support our teachers and we support our communities. And then they started advancing on the head of the LAUSD school board, Kelly Gonez, and all of a sudden Kelly was whisked away. And one of the parents who was live streaming for parent supporting teachers was like, this is unbelievable. Like it's on her live stream where she is just shocked watching these guys kind of descend on the school board president and Kelly getting whisked away. So when I left, I was like, okay, looking into the faces of those dudes, like a lot of them over 50, childless, did not seem to have kids at that school, were dressed like paramilitary people. And they were in the media portrayed as concerned parents. And I was like, I feel like
Unbelievable.
this is coordinated and there's something behind this. And those do not seem like concerned parents. And I went down a rabbit hole and I just started looking at all the reporting that has been done on this so far. And I realized, oh no, these are not concerned parents. This is a coordinated group. They've been coordinated for a long time around California. They've hit Redlands, they've hit Murrieta, they've hit Chino Valley, they have hit Conejo Valley. I think and Jen and Alex, you may know more than me. And up next is Temecula. So I don't want to take too much more time. I'll just say like I was really upset, and I knew they had advertised that they were going to hit Glendale the next week. And as I was researching, I realized that a group took credit for the Saticoy elementary protests, and they were not from LAUSD. They were called GUSD Parents Voices. They're run by a guy named Jordan Henry. And the mainstream media basically missed this, that this was the group that organized it, took credit, brought in trucks, brought in banners, brought in t-shirts for everyone, that there actually was someone who mobilized, not from our school district, from down the street. And as I started researching the parents who have been fighting that in Glendale, it said that they were coming to Glendale the next week. They did. And I can go back to that, but I want to.
It was Jordan Henry's group again that went to Glendale?
Yes.
Oh, really? So, did
And
you have a sense of?
Oh wait, and Jen, the way that we know that is they took credit in right-wing media outlets. Like the mainstream media outlets totally missed it all, but redstate.com was like, oh yes, we're covering these things, and then they casually dropped the group that organized
Can you tell me the group's name
Saticoy
again?
and Glendale. What?
The group's name again? I know it's Jordan Henry. What was the name of his group?
I think it's GUSD Parents Voices. And the
Did you
group
see
that
any Proud Boys the the chaos within the chaos that you observed? They tend to wear black and yellow.
they were not in their black and yellow colors. I did see them later in media accounts. I was like, oh, that guy was there and that guy was there. And knockla.com has done a great job chronicling them, as have several independent journalists on Twitter. Like one would be Sky Spider, at Sky Spider, kind of goes to all these things and finds them. And I was like, and she was like, this is a Proud Boy, here's his history, this is a Proud Boy, here's his history. And I went through and I was like, yes, that guy was at Saticoy, that guy was at Glendale, that guy was at Saticoy, that guy was at Glendale. Their faces are in my brains because they were it was so shocking to me that these people would show up to an elementary school. And I'm so angry about that.
That is very shocking. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Temecula and why we have concerns that something's about to go down there. I'm wondering if one of the one of you, Jen or Alex, would like to start. What first made you realize that Temecula was in the crosshairs of this coordinated campaign to attack public schools?
I think Jen may be the person to take the lead on this. I just want to specify that I'm actually not a parent yet. I moved out to Temecula from LA like a year and a half ago to start a family, and I've just watched the school board just completely implode in front of my eyes. So it's just been bizarre. So I just wanted to specify that, but I've been following it pretty well. But I know Jen's been pretty active, so I can maybe fill in if there's any, extra commentary, but I'll let her have it.
Okay, sure. Then Jen, go ahead.
So I've actually been kind of paying attention since even before COVID. We have a pastor here that's been very active. He's the one that got the school board into the school board majority that it is. But as far as Tuesday, we have sort of like Jordan Henry, we have a local page called We the Parents TVUSD. And they had taken a video from, I think it was the Glendale situation, and they were like, "Hey, Temecula, you're up next."
Oh, great. And where did they post this?
They posted that on their Instagram page.
That's scary.
And Bryce Henson is very active on that Instagram page. And so I was immediately like, well, that's not good. Like, to me, that's definitely a threat. And then by the next day, someone had mentioned that Sylvie had shared it amongst all of that group. And so we should start expecting that they were going to be coming out too.
So let's talk a little bit about who Sylvie is. There's three names that I know of just from your guys' posts on Twitter, I think, that seem to come up again and again at these Southern California protests against public schools, against the LGBTQ community. And one of them is Sylvie Arroyo, another is Louis Flores, and another is Bryce Henson. So who is Sylvie, if you could tell me?
So I don't know a lot about Sylvie. Unfortunately, the people who would are not in here today. I
That
know
would be the Redlands parents.
Yes,
this has been happening
okay.
in Redlands, and Redlands has been in the trenches for 2 years.
And that's another Southern California school district. She does appear to have, I mean, I did a little bit of research on my own, and she does appear to have at least connections to the Proud Boys. She's been photographed with the Proud Boys, and it looks to me like she, Louis, and Bryce, or some combination thereof, have been in at least 2 of these protests of public school board meetings, and Sylvie maybe at all of them, and seems to be sort of a coordinator. Is that your sense?
Yes.
I
Go ahead.
definitely saw Bryce at the Glendale event, because there's just some dude in a hat that says Dad Army or whatever, and got like a book that looks like someone did like cartoons of porn. Like,
it's a graphic novel that he's obsessed with.
I have no idea what it is, and he's like getting in your face and going, "Do you think this should be taught at public schools?" And you're like, "What? Why do you have this book? And why are you trying to show me graphic images of sex?" This is not what's happening. What's happening is people come on from all kinds of families, and like, you're the pervert getting in there and being like, "You like this?" Like, no, I don't. And I don't want a guy showing it to me.
Hilarious. So Bryce, I've seen that he is in the Proud Boys, or at least people say that he's in the Proud Boys on Twitter. Do you have any information on that? Have you seen him in a Proud Boys t-shirt or anything like that?
No, I've only seen him like aligned with them.
I would
mean like in their presence?
Yes.
Yes.
And talking like he communicates with them on Instagram, and
Okay.
I would
and the same Louis Flores. Go ahead.
I would direct everyone to knockla.com's reporting and A Cat with News on Twitter and Sky Spider on Twitter, because they are the people exhaustively documenting this.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, Louis Flores is another one who I've seen described as a Proud Boy by several people on Twitter. I can't independently confirm that, but he's apparently involved in this. And then, of course, Sylvie, and she's also part of a group called Lexit. As soon as I saw Lexit, I thought of Roger Stone, who I write about a lot, because pretty much any group that has an exit in it, or something for Trump in it, it tends to have ties to Roger Stone, and also this sort of performative protests reek of Roger Stone too, who's long said that politics is show business for ugly people. And I think he's the first one who came up with that quote. And he's certainly, he was photographed with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers inside a replica Oval Office in the years and months before January 6th, doing a very theatrical, like with his V for Nixon victory sign. He has borrowed that from Nixon, and he's just he dresses like a Batman villain. And so I saw Lexit and I'm like, oh God, that sounds like Roger Stone. And sure enough, he has ties to the Lexit people, not necessarily Sylvie herself. I haven't seen that, but some of the other Lexit people.
There was a Lexit guy named Jesse Holguin at Glendale. And there's a lot of J6ers who showed up to Glendale as well. I did a Twitter thread to just kind of highlight their names.
Oh, great. If you could maybe tell us what your Twitter handle is, and then maybe bump that to the top of your Twitter handle today.
It is at Daisy KP Gardner on Twitter. And it's just a thread of identified January 6ers and Proud Boys who were at Glendale. And those were a lot of the same faces I saw at Satakoy several days before. And I did it as a funny thread of like, I'm a PTA mom. And it was just around about like the real battle for public schools, which is getting funding for water fountains and stuff. But it's all within that thread.
Okay, well, definitely we'll want to look for that. The only other thing I wanted to say quickly is that I noticed that Forgiato Blow and Bryson Gray their names appeared in the context of the advertisement for that Sylvie had posted, telling people to come to Temecula tomorrow. And that concerned me as well, because I'm probably one of the few people who's done like a deep dive on Forgiato Blow. I think that there's been a few profiles done on him in the media, but I don't know if everyone's connected him to Roger Stone that much, but he is absolutely a Roger Stone close associate. I don't know if he's taking direction from him or if it's just associational, but they've done a rap video together. He does MAGA rapping, such as that is. And so that concerned me.
Where they went into Target and scared the crap out of families shopping at Target. Yeah.
Yes, that's Forgiato Blow. It went viral. So and again, that reeks of Roger Stone, who also says that you have to be outrageous to get noticed. And that's his MO. And so he has like really befriended these rapper people. Forgiato Blow is one of them, who I believe is a product of Florida private school, rich parents. And then Bryson Gray, who is another, I think he's a rapper, another musician, associate closely. I knew it, and I Googled it, and sure enough, Bryson Gray and Roger Stone are closely connected. And he was also promoting this event in Temecula, which really concerned me, because anytime you see connections to Roger Stone, he probably more than anyone else is responsible for the mainstreaming of the Proud Boys organization, and to a lesser extent, the Oath Keepers. And he is also Trump's closest advisor, which I think really doesn't get enough attention, because Trump obviously is running to be president again, and he was just indicted. He's been indicted twice, and Stone is his closest advisor. And so you're really just an arm's reach away between these lunatics and Trump. These both Christian nationalist lunatics and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, largely through Roger Stone. And so because he hasn't been held to account, I feel like a lot of his network is still running ramshot with our democracy, and that has really shifted toward attacks on public schools, as you are seeing. So, Jen, I want to hear a little bit more about Temecula, though, because you mentioned there's a pastor who's been sort of an issue in your school district. And can you tell me a little bit more about him?
I can tell you pretty much anything you want to know about him.
What's his name?
His name's Tim Thompson. He runs the 412 church. Right now they're in Murrieta, but they're currently building a big church right off the freeway. excuse me. And then he also runs a second ministry, which is called Our Watch with Tim Thompson. And that's on like, if they have YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, everything. Yeah, I see you laugh at Rumble.
No, just the churches on social media is a big thing now.
And it's, well, and that one is his big political pushing one. It's like he has both of them online.
Baker-esque. That's what it reminds me of. But yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
oh
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Very, very Jim Baker-esque. But they're both online, but the Our Watch one is where he really pushes his political stuff. And back in 2019, he was trying to convince one of our school boards to become a sanctuary school district so that they didn't actually have to follow any of California's laws and do any of that kind of stuff. And the district was like, thank you. We're not interested.
What type of laws? You mean anti-discrimination laws he didn't want to follow?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And laws about being a secular school and not teaching Christianity.
And not teaching like ethnic studies and all of that kind of stuff. And so then COVID hit, and he was very active in trying to get all the schools to reopen. And during that, he actually got a person elected into our city council who has been very problematic, to say the least. She compared herself to Rosa Parks during COVID because she was required to wear masks, and she found that to be, yeah. And then she has tried to make the city a sanctuary city for the unborn. She tried to put a memorial for the unborn at the duck pond. And then right before Prop 1 was voted on, she wanted the city as a whole to just say that they stood against Prop 1. And none of those things panned out in her favor.
Can you tell me her name?
Jessica Alexander.
Okay.
And
then that's when he got her in, it was like, that was his test subject. Okay, we got her in. Now I know what I need to do to get my school board people in. Mm-hmm. So he got a total of 6 people on 3 different school boards.
Whoa.
Yeah, he got 3 in Temecula, 2 in Murrieta, and then there is a woman, Jill Leonard, in Lake Elsinore.
And he started that political action committee too, right? The
yes.
IE Family PAC. Family PAC, yeah. That was. Mm-hmm. And he used that to fund them. And he also hosted Marjorie Taylor Greene in his church.
Oh, lovely.
Do you remember that?
About Christian Nationalist.
Yeah.
Who I also suspect, by the way, of being a Roger Stone operative, or certainly taking notes from him, because she's very show businessy to grab headlines, dressing like Cruella de Vil in Congress, so that everyone takes, that's the picture that everyone takes. Interesting. And she did joint fundraising with Matt Gaetz, but these are Florida people, so they should not be affecting what's happening in your school district, and yet they are.
And he's actually, it was the 2 of them together. It was Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, and they were out here. They were supposed to do like a conference or something, and 3 different locations, all like they got planned to go. And then at the last minute, they were like, never mind, we don't want your drama here. And they canceled on it. So then Tim was like, hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, come on over to the church and we'll talk to you here.
Wow. That's really interesting. Did Gaetz go with her?
No.
I think there's an interesting Florida connection, just because I think Florida is the playbook for the rest of the country.
Yes.
Which is get violent extremists to threaten your school board, threaten your teachers, get like very far right Christian nationalists into your school board, and all of a sudden people can't teach ethnic studies. They can't uphold civil rights laws. Like, they basically make religious schools within the public school system. Good teachers quit, board members resign. No one wants to get harassed. No one wants the violence. And then your schools fail. Like, that's what happened in Sarasota, Florida. One of the best school districts in the country got taken over by Proud Boys, and even just parents associated with Proud Boys who are in communication with them, to kind of come storm those meetings, and no one's like, yeah, I'll put my life on the line to build the gymnasium. Like,
And to make
they-
my $40,000 a year teacher salary.
yeah. And so you lose
Yeah.
your people. It's a brain drain and your schools fail.
And I think that something that maybe is forgotten too often is that the Proud Boys, their founder, explicitly called them a gang. He said he founded this gang, and he did a video where he said, "We will kill you. That's the Proud Boys in a nutshell." And he wasn't joking. He's had other similar comments that he made on his own show, which was hosted, I believe, by Alex Jones. So, I mean, this is an expressly violent organization, and if anyone should be designated as a domestic terrorist organization, it's the Proud Boys, but I guess we don't do that in the United States.
And it's gross because it's, quote, for the kids. And it's like, people have been nowhere near kids. You've done none of the work with kids. You have not raised children. Like, you are homeschooling your kids, or they're private schools. Like, you do not know what it takes to build a community. You only know what it takes to destroy one. And so it's going to take a whole community to stand up against them, because the cautionary tale is Temecula, where the board is now 3-2. And so you have the board president saying, we're not going to teach about Harvey Milk. And Gavin Newsom saying, but legally you're required to teach about Harvey Milk. Like, that's protected. That's a civil right thing. And it's like, well, we're not. And that's what this board meeting is about on Tuesday. They've taken, right, Jen, like, and Alex, they don't even have textbooks, because they can't teach textbooks, because textbooks teach about all kinds of people. So they've taken them out of the schools. They can't even like teach them. And I think there's rumors that they're going to fire the very popular superintendent who's fantastic, that everybody loves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a teacher exodus in your school district as a
Yes.
result of all of this? Can you describe
Mhm.
that a little? A lot of teachers, or just a few?
The one thing I've noticed is that most of them aren't really bragging about it. They're just kind of quietly leaving and going other places. But like, one of my group chats the other day, like, immediately it was like, this principal and the VP are both leaving the school, and all these teachers are leaving from this school. So it's pretty big. And then there's a lot of them that are like, if this superintendent is fired and they put in somebody that is not good, that then they'll run, and they'll quit, because they have just a short amount of time now before the next year. Like, they have to give their notice by a certain time, or they have to see the next year through.
And so that's why this board meeting tomorrow is so important, because if they fire the competent superintendent and install a puppet guy, who I think is a PE teacher with a history of child molestation.
No, wow. It's a PE teacher who has reports of harassing women on his file, but that's a rumor. There are a few different rumors of who they might replace, and there's actually one woman, I think her name is Kimberly Velez, that they're discussing, and she seems pretty competent and pretty good, to the point that I'm actually concerned for her. Like, I don't think she wants to jump into that fire.
Yeah,
right.
That's just going to be, and to me, you know what? Put in the PE teacher. That just shows how incompetent you all are. Like, that, to me, that does not help them in any way.
And what can people do tomorrow, Jen? Like, I've had friends ask me in LA, like, how do we support you? Is it supporting the one TV pack? Is it showing up physically? If people do show up, is the messaging like, we love schools, we love educators, like, stop attacking schools? Like, what helps you?
I think definitely, like, right now, I know the one Temecula Valley pack is working on the recall. Like I said, they were getting that started this morning. So that is definitely a big thing. And funding that is a big thing, because I know, as far as signatures, that's going to have to be localized. So to me, people outside of the area that want to help, it's like emailing the district and just reinforcing, like, hey, you have a good superintendent, and she's she got the district through COVID, and she has been really good at working with them. I am impressed at how well she has worked with these board members. She's been very fair and very kind to them, and like, this is absolutely a slap in the face to her.
What is her
So
name?
I think reinforcing that, and just reinforcing that, these kids need their workbooks. Like, they'll get printed copies for the first like month or two of the year, but then there's nothing after that. So, I think those are the two biggest things, is, letting the district know, reaching out to the district and just letting them know that the superintendent keeping her is important, and that these kids need their social studies curriculum. They need it.
Okay, and what is the name of the superintendent who's good?
Jody McClay.
McClay? Okay. So
Yes.
we should support Jody McClay. What about people showing up? Because it sounds like there is going to be a fair amount of physical intimidation if the previous protests are any indication.
It sounds like it's already going to be a pretty wild time, and standing room only by the end outside. So I don't know that we need more people showing up. It looks like everyone that I know will be there. Everyone I know. So it's pretty well covered as far as physical attendance at this meeting, I think.
What time should we
And
get there?
security has been, sorry.
What time should we get there? Because I know that a lot of these groups like to get there early to fill the seats up and take it away from parents or people
Yes.
in the community.
I know people showing up as early as 2:30 to try and make sure that we are, it doesn't start until 6. So part of it depends on if you want to speak or not. If you want to come and you want to speak at the board meeting, I would show up probably by like 3.
Okay.
If you just want to show up and attend, probably like 4:30 is fine.
Okay.
Okay, and what about signs? Would you appreciate people showing up with signs outside, pro LGBTQ signs, signs supporting your superintendent, that kind of thing? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Like
Yes, both of those would be
extremists out of schools, our kids.
right.
Right.
Yeah. And textbooks.
Yeah. And I know there is
a talking point
actually
that you might want to consider. Oops, go ahead. No,
there
you go.
the Temecula Valley Teachers Association. I can't think of the TVEA, Educators Association. It's their union. They are holding like a rally march. They will be at the park just down the street from the district office, starting at, I believe, 3:30, maybe 4 p.m. And then they are going to walk from that place up to the district office. So that will kind of start the whole thing.
Okay. And I know that all of this groomers and pedophile talk with the LGBTQ plus community and people who support the LGBTQ plus community is a load of crap. But a talking point to keep in mind is a lot of the people hurling these baseless claims are Christian nationalists themselves or Christian nationalist adjacent, and they are completely ignoring the sexual abuse scandals that have been roiling Christian institutions, including the Catholic Church and the Southern Baptist Convention and the Mormon Church recently, and where there's been a lot of cover up of that. So it's extremely, there's a lot of deflection, I think, that's happening with this. And
I think groomer is the new war on Christmas, where it's like outrage manufactured for an imaginary thing. And in the meantime, it deflects from like last week, 1,900 kids were documented to have been abused in the Catholic Church. And,
absolutely deflects.
It's insane.
And people who cover politics tend to not cover what's happening, the sexual abuse scandals in the Christian institutions, because they believe in the separation of church and state and don't see the connection. But the problem is that then the Christian right is absolutely attacking, making the baseless claims about sexual abuse and pedophilia against the LGBTQ plus community.
Where there's no documented cases, and you're like, there's literally thousands of documented cases at the church.
And they've been covering it up on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing with the parental rights rubric. This is just something that you might want to keep in mind at some point in your pocket. It started with Christian homeschooling. So it's in the article that I just wrote last week. It is a Christian homeschooling phrase that was used by Christian homeschoolers, the Christian right, to oppose the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And the top organization that promoted this concept, one of his organizations works with Moms for Liberty. And they also, one of their big things is representing parents when Child Protective Services comes knocking, and they seek to dismantle mandatory and oppose further mandatory child abuse reporting laws. So they're really, in many ways, actually opposed to children's rights, this parental rights movement. And it is very much a Christian extremist movement. So, well, I wish all of you the best of luck tomorrow. And is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to say before we sign off today?
I would just like to say that parents need to be aware that this is happening and there is a playbook and that it is coordinated, and to expect it and start to get to know the faces and the players involved. I think that's really key, because at the end of the day, our board members, our principals, our teachers are just people. Like you can't throw up your hands and go, you guys got it. Like they're people like us, and they need our support if our schools are going to survive.
I think that's an excellent point. Anybody else?
I wanted to say too, with the Temecula curriculum for the K-5 for social studies, it sounds like, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but our teachers piloted a program with 1,300 families locally. And I think maybe they received one minor complaint about it. So it was basically widely loved by everybody. And they've had the books, I think, at the district office to be reviewed by everybody, but nobody went to go review them. And now it's an issue. And so at the board meeting, when they denied the new curriculum, we may be in violation of the Williams Act, I believe that's what it's called, which could put us, which could cause fines of upwards of $1 million for our taxpayers. And I know Danny Gonzalez was told that during the meeting, and he was seen shrugging because he doesn't care. So
Who's Danny Gonzalez?
One of our board members who was funded by Tim Thompson and his PAC.
Okay, so I want to make sure we have all you said there were, well, in your school, who are the 3 or 4 board members that were funded?
Jen Wiersma, Jen Wiersma, Danny Gonzalez, and Joseph Komrosky.
Okay, and then how many other board members are there that are not?
There's 2 others, Steve Schwartz, right? Of course, I don't know the good ones because the bad ones are making the headlines, but and then
Allison Barclay.
Barclay, yeah.
Okay, but they're underwater,
she was great
because
there
are more who are supported by this pastor than are not, right?
Yes, they have the majority, so that's what's messing up everything. They started off banning CRT. That was one of the first things. Dr. Komrosky, he also plagiarized his dissertation. He thinks that cell towers next to schools are harming kids. He's a nutcase, but he tends to throw out the Black parents in the school board meetings. He just kicks them out. We've had some crazy interactions with a lady, I forget that lady's name, that showed up to our board meeting, because I don't think she was from here, but she told that that other parent to go back to his country or something.
Oh yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
she was on her kid goes to a private school here, so she lives in the district in the area, but her kids don't attend the school.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's just been crazy. Like, it's just mind-blowing that this is 2023 and people are having like these attacks towards other people. It's kind of blowing my mind.
It's a small minority who are extremely organized behind the scenes and probably very well funded, and they're using implied threats of violence and maybe in some cases actual violence to get their way. And it's very scary. So I'm really sorry that you're dealing with it. I think many more school districts will probably start seeing what you're seeing, and so hopefully this can help people get a little bit ahead of it. And keep us posted on what happens tomorrow in Temecula. I hope it goes okay. I hope the Proud Boys don't show up, but it sounds like they probably will.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys for sharing your time with me and sharing your stories with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Being with us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for getting the word out.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.